requested photographs of 3 officers back on June 15th because I wanted to identify them, and then they blatantly refused to identify themselves. They just, for some apparent reason, they decided it was offensive to ask to identify. So I came to ask for a FOIA, and then I was presented with taken from this section, taken from section 552119 of the TAC, confidentiality of certain photographs of peace officers, a photograph that depicts a peace officer as defined by Article 212, Code of Criminal Procedure, the release of which would endanger the life of physical safety officer. So basically they're saying they're afraid it's going to endanger the life of the officer to just have a picture. And do you see how, like he gave me the names of the 3 officers, like it says Barr and 2 other officers' names, but do you see how it's hard to identify who the officer is because it doesn't have that picture attached to the name? You see what I'm saying?
You've seen them by sight, correct?
Yeah, I've seen them by sight, but they didn't.
So then, and you have a name, so now you.
I can't attach the name to the officer though.
Well, as you can see by this law right here,
But
there's only certain exemptions in which that we are required to provide you with a photograph, official photograph of a police officer.
Right.
Okay. None of the criteria matches what you want. You're just doing it for your own personal identification. Just like you don't have to identify yourself if you're not under arrest to a peace officer, and I know that you've done that on multiple occasions because I've heard of that with you. We don't have to give you a photograph just because you asked for it. Unless we're under indictment, party to a civil offense.
So like
if requirements that are listed in here.
If I ask for your name and your badge number right now, you don't feel obligated to tell it to me?
I can tell you my name and badge.
So what's your name and your badge number?
My name is Sergeant Ryan Jenkins. My badge number is 2308.
Okay, well I'm saying
and
here.
We're required to do that by policy.
I'm just saying.
Is what I'm telling you.
Okay,
but we don't have to give you a photograph just because you want one.
Why are they cherry picking this part of the code whenever I printed this part of the code out, which says that the law enforcement agency or other governmental entity that appoints or employs a peace officer shall issue an identification card to its full-time and part-time police officers. And on the identification card, it must include the full name of the peace officer, a photograph of the peace officer consistent with the peace officer's appearance, the name of the law enforcement agency or other governmental entity appointed or that employs it, if applicable, the signature of the person appointing or employing the person as a peace officer on behalf of the law enforcement agency or other governmental entity. So this is telling you it also requires a thumbprint, the height and weight. I wasn't given any of this, so I'm saying, how come these 3 officers were allowed to blatantly disobey their code?
Well, I can tell you right now that this is not privy to public information, okay? Yes, we are given, every peace officer is issued a state ID by that agency that is employing them, okay, to identify them. But we do not have to, are not required to give that to a citizen just because they want it. And it's also not part of the public information act.
It wasn't just because I wanted it.
You can't come up and do an open records request and say, I want copies of all their IDs. Now, unless you have some kind of a criminal proceeding and you have an attorney that is subpoenaing that information under discovery, then
but I'm saying
that's the only time that we would have to give you that information.
Okay, but like you would agree that the first time when they said no, we can't give her IDs, that was wrong, right?
No, I'm not going to agree to that because I wasn't there and I don't know what exactly they told you.
They were trying to ID me, and then they wouldn't identify themselves.
They did have a name tag on their shirt, right?
They had a name tag on their shirt, but you're supposed to orally declare who you are.
Doesn't matter, right? They have a name tag on their shirt.
That's not proper identification. You're supposed to say your name and your. You're supposed to say your name and your picture.
You can identify their place of employment by the badge and also by the patch. And then they also have a name tag that gives their first initial, last name.
Okay, so it said Officer Barr, but I still don't know who. I don't know the picture of who Officer Barr is. I just have a name, Officer Barr. Like
you saw him. So I saw him visually with your face.
But I don't know which one that is what I'm saying.
Well, we don't swap name tags.
I have a 30.
I can tell you that much right now.
You're saying that I only have a 33% chance to guess which of those 3 officers Barr is.
Yeah, because so now you're trying to say that. And this sounds completely preposterous, but you're insinuating now that our officers, before they get out on a traffic stop, oh, here, let's play Chinese fire drill with our name tags, and I'm going to give him mine, he's going to give me his, and we're going to come.
No,
so that way you can't tell
that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying.
Well, that's basically what you're insinuating, Mr. Dimitri.
I'm saying, how come you can't identify who that person is? I mean,
you can by their name tag.
Her or whoever did it,
This is not a required, okay, this is just a law stating that when you're employed as a peace officer, you will be issued an ID, okay? That doesn't mean that we have to wear it on our shirt, or just because you say, hey, I want to see your police ID, we don't have to do that either.
You're saying you don't have
Just
to.
like you don't have to give me
You don't
your
have- you
driver's
don't have
license
to
if you're
ID.
not under arrest and I come up to you and I say, hey, let me see your ID. For
Well,
no reason,
that's-
just walking up to you, you don't have to
So,
ID yourself to me. because
That's
you're
what,
not under arrest.
what you just said is what they did to me for 10 whole minutes. They could have just asked me for a few minutes, hey, it looks suspicious activity, can I have your ID?
I don't even know what this call was related to.
On
but-
June 15th, the officers pulled me over.
Okay.
So they didn't pull me over, I was already in my
I was gonna say,
car.
if they're pulling you over, that's a traffic stop.
They-
Technically, you're under arrest at that
No,
point, so.
I was just sitting in my car and then they walked up and they're like, I need to see some ID. And I'm like, well, what crime am I being suspected of, or have I been arrested for a crime? And they said, you're not being arrested for a crime, so I didn't have to give them my ID. So you understand how that would be, that would be harassment, right?
No, it's not. Because
You don't think that would be harassment?
We have the right.
How is that not
Listen to
harassment?
me. We have the right.
How is that not
to
harassment?
ask- Listen to me, I'm trying to explain to you. We can ask anyone for their identification, whether you choose to give it to us or not.
But they asked it for
If
10
you're not
minutes.
under
They
arrest,
asked it for 10
because
minutes.
it's not against the law. There's
It's not against law for them
suspicion.
to ask you for 10 minutes straight? That's what they did. They asked me for 10 minutes straight. You're saying,
don't know. I
you're saying
wasn't
that's
there.
okay to ask someone for an ID
I
for
can
10
ask
minutes?
anybody for their ID.
That's okay to ask someone for an ID for
You
10
don't
minutes.
have to give it to me if you're not under arrest. Now, if you are under
So-
arrest, i.e. if you're under
Okay, I understand what you're
stop,
saying. You've already said this
then
many
now
times.
You're failing to ID.
But you're saying that even if I ask you 10, 20 times, that doesn't eventually fall under the criteria of harassment eventually?
No. Have you read the statute on harassment since you seem to be so educated on
I would assume it would be
Texas Penal Code?
it would be trying to make someone do something that they don't want to do.
If I were you, if you want to start throwing the term harassment around, if I were you, I would study the Texas Penal Code and read what the Texas Penal Code states as harassment.
Okay, well, I mean, if I was a private citizen,
Because I can tell you right now, none of the criteria for the statute for a violation of harassment falls under us asking you 10 to 20 times, as you're claiming, for identification or for you to identify yourself by name.
if I was a private citizen and I walk up to another private citizen and I asked them for their name 20 times in a row and I said no, would that be considered harassment to you?
No.
So
It's not, that doesn't meet the criteria.
So you-
like I said, you need to read the
for some
Texas
reason,
Penal Code.
for some reason, I believe that if I went up to a private citizen and I asked them for their ID 20 times in a row, I'm pretty sure that I would get it called in on me.
People use the term harassment
And
very
then-
loosely, okay? Now, somebody may call saying, hey, this guy's harassing me.
And then y'all would come and
But that's
investigate.
not- but that's not-
And then y'all would separate us.
Harassing by
and then
definition and harassment by penal statute are two different things.
go ahead and cite the penal
So
statute.
I couldn't come up and arrest you because
What's the
you're
definition of
bugging a
harassment?
guy. Now, I could tell you to leave them alone because they don't want you bothering them, and you're obviously probably on the verge of creating a disorderly conduct situation because you're interrupting the peace of the status by bugging someone. I mean, you're pushing the limits of there could be a fight, there could be something else that breaks out of that.
So at that point, you would say after asking someone 20, 30 times who they are, you'd probably break it up and say, don't talk to that guy again, or I'm going to arrest them, right?
You're asking me.
I'm asking you a
hypothetical
question.
situation
I'm asking you in a
between two
hypothetical-
citizens. I'm not talking about an officer.
I know, but
and
you can't answer the
and a
question
citizen
though? You
contact.
can't answer the question though?
That's
I'm just,
answering your question.
so,
I just answered.
you would just warn them, but you would still allow them
Okay,
to
look, we're not
contact
here
each
to have an
other.
interview about your situation.
Well, I'm trying to see all the
What I'm
mental
telling you is,
gymnastics.
okay,
You're doing
you
mental
have
gymnastics.
been provided right here.
Yes.
A copy of the Texas Administrative.
Okay.
Okay? That gives you conditions under which we are required or not required to release a photo of an officer to a private citizen.
'Cause you think
this
that-
does not fall under the Public Information Act or Public Records Act.
Okay.
So here's the deal. You can't have the pictures. Plain and simple.
Let me-
I don't know what else to tell you about it.
Let me read.
So if that's it, this conversation's done because I'm not going to sit here and debate with you all day about if you have a problem with the fact that these officers asked you 10 to 20 times for your name or whatever it was
15
that
to
they
be
were trying-
precise, 15.
whatever it is, it's all on video, okay? Everything's recorded.
It's
I'm
evidence,
sure you
right?
recorded it, and I'm sure we recorded it. It's not evidence, it's called public record. I mean, it's for our evidence retention.
Okay, so I'm assuming that y'all aren't letting me have the pictures because y'all are afraid that I'll post it on social media.
Because
But
it could potentially, and we know you're about your YouTube channel, and we know everything else that you do and how you try to defame us all the time. But what I'm telling you is, that could potentially create a situation because here you are targeting specific officers by name and showing
targeting,
pictures.
I'm targeting them because I want them to obey this part of the code.
This is not a code that you're trying to enforce.
That's a Texas penal
this
code.
Talks about, no, this is not Texas penal code.
So if I was given,
looking at-
if I was
you're looking
given,
at something
I'm trying to talk now.
completely- you're probably looking at
You've
the
been
code of
talking.
criminal
You've been
procedure.
talking for 10 minutes straight. Okay, so I'll reframe my question. What if I get the pictures and I don't post them on social media? Is there a way we can do it that way, where I can get 3 pictures and not post them publicly? What's the justification for not? So you're saying that?
Okay.
Are y'all even
you
Are y'all
read
even
this?
investigating these
Did you read
officers?
this?
Are y'all even investigating these officers?
Have you filed a formal complaint?
Yeah, I filed a formal
Okay,
complaint.
then they're being investigated.
So you don't think that it's prudent during an investigation to not properly identify officers? Because certain officers said certain things. So I want that certain officer to be
The
held,
only thing that's
held
going to happen
accountable.
is, okay, just because you're saying that that didn't happen, unless it falls under a violation of our policy and or state law, then no, they're not, that's going to be the end of it. Just because you said you felt that they needed to identify themselves to you when you asked for them, if they didn't violate one of our policies and or any kind of state law, then no, that's the end of the investigation right there, and it's unfounded at that point. So if you're wondering what's going on with that, they will inform you at some point.
Do you know why it took
whether it's been completed? You'll usually receive a letter in the mail notifying you of the outcome of your investigation.
So you don't think that me launching an investigation has any type of merit? You think because someone's
See, now
investigating
you're
me?
asking for my opinion. This has nothing to do
Like,
with me.
but you already
This
get
is about- this is about state
already
law,
said that
and
I'm
it's
trying to
about policy.
defame y'all. You already said I'm trying to defame y'all when
We
that's not
already
true.
know all about
That's
your
not true.
YouTube
I'm not trying to defame
We already know
y'all.
about
There are
your
certain
YouTube
officers
page.
that I
We
actually
see you
respect
rant and
here.
rave all the time
There are certain officers.
about officers.
Thank you for the
and-
views, by the
and your-
way. Thank
and
you for
your-
the views.
And your allegations about. You
But
know,
I'm saying that
what you think we're doing right and wrong.
there's certain officers that I respect, like Officer Wagner. Y'all could actually take a lesson from him. I don't know about you because I never had an interaction with you until today.
Right, I've never dealt with you.
I'm just saying, why is it each time I come up here, y'all constantly try to defend the officers without trying to hear the full
I'm
cases?
not defending anybody. This has nothing to do with me. I'm not part
But
of
you
the
just said I was trying
investigation
to
of your
defame the.
I said that your website as a whole, because many of our officers have viewed your website. We listen to the things that you say on there, and we've heard the stuff that you've tried to say about us and made accusations of us breaking the law, violating civil rights.
Like this?
All kinds of other stuff. This is not a civil right. This is about a government entity
That's a Texas-
issuing a peace officer an identification card.
It's a code
That's all it
infraction.
talks
Because you can
about.
go ahead. It's fine. Go
That's
ahead.
all it is.
You can go
It just
ahead. It's a
talks
code
about that
infraction.
They have to do it. That
It's a
they
code
have to give us
infraction.
an ID. So what? We've all got IDs.
You're supposed to
I've got
say
an ID
it
and everybody else
aloud.
around here
You're
does.
supposed to say it out loud. Your name and your badge number.
No, that falls under policy.
Are you able to check?
And if the
Okay.
officers violated our policy, then they will be disciplined.
Okay, well, you don't think it's kind of ironic that y'all are having a rape aggression defense class whenever there was a lady from 2 years ago in 2015 that constantly kept filing complaints against the Friendsville Police Department about her being harassed by an officer, and then he wasn't arrested until 2 years later for a separate charge of child molestation? You don't think there was some lack of accountability there? You don't
You're
see how
asking me-
tone
you're
deaf and
asking me for an
hypocritical it
opinion
is
that I'm
to have a
not
rape
going to
aggression
discuss with
defense
you.
class?
And
While at the
this has
same
nothing
time,
to do with
y'all
what you asked
y'all
me.
ignored a woman who was trying to have complaints against officer and have any type of punishment pursued.
Okay.
You don't think that was
You're here to
negligent
talk about
justice?
this.
Is
I'm not here to
that is that
discuss
is
this, and this
that
has nothing to do
defamation
with
or is
you.
that actually reporting on an actual story?
Defamation is, you're talking about civil stuff. So.
All right, well, I mean, you've already answered my questions. Thank you. You provided your name and your badge number, so thank you.
Okay.
All right.